Welcome to Hard to Target. I'm Robin.
I'm Claire, and this is Bob.
Together, we're introducing an overview of 10 essential self-defense skills. Our goal in this series is to help you gauge your progress in building a well-rounded self-defense toolset,
So you can defend yourself and the ones you care about.
When we start training in the martial art, progress is easy to gauge at first. We learn a punch, a kick, or a throw, and we feel great about it. But pretty soon our eyes open up to the bigger picture. We start to see all the vast quantities of techniques available to us, and we start to lose our way, lose our sense of forward momentum, get lost in the woods, so to speak. Here's something that can help. We all had a reason to consider training in martial arts. Might have been to get in shape, learn a lineage, compete in a sport of some kind, or of course, learn self-defense. If we can build a tangible goal around that purpose, that can be our big rock, something to focus on so we don't lose our way in all the sands of things we could be learning. In 36 years of training and teaching, I've found that for self-defense, tangible progress is less about numbers of techniques and more about putting powerful and flexible tools into 10 skill areas that are aligned to common assault situations. Here's the reason why. If Bob or his friends show up at any of these places, we don't know what they're bringing to the table. In other videos, we will detail specific techniques. Here, I will narrate to highlight what our focus is as we train in each of the skill areas. Here we're looking at awareness. We're just making sure that our eyes are up, we have peripheral vision happening so that we're aware of something that's coming our way. Now we're moving into generating power with our hand and foot strikes. And we're really focusing on making sure that our shoulders and our hips are twisting into the strike so that it's not just our little shoulder muscle that's making power, but it's our whole body. Because if you have to use a strike to defend yourself, you want it to count. We want even the jab to have stopping power. And now we're just kind of playing with our bags a bit, adding our knees to it, doing some combos here. This is just to show some variety. Now we're moving on to our kicks, and we're focusing on driving our hip forward and letting it twist a little bit as well. I'm showing strikes from the front and rear foot to show that you can make power from both, just like a jab and a cross. And now we're going to practice moving to get our entire body moved toward the target for really maximum power. Here we're showing that spinning the body can also add power. Here's a basic back kick. Not very fancy, very powerful. Foot stomp and driving back straight from our body. There's strikes if we don't have hands available. And now we're showing striking around the side of the body. A round kick is really good for that. We may not always go for the face, or hardly ever in a self-defense situation, but the ribs, groin, leg sweeps, really good use of the round kick. Now we're going to strike some soft targets. And that's what we're kind of focusing on here. Earlier I showed a lot of different targets. The core are the eyes, nose, throat, solar plexus, groin, right down the center of the body. Now we're moving and just trying to keep our focus on our power as we're moving along. We're trying to make sure we still have something in it. We're not going all out because we're not wanting to hurt each other, but we're just playing around.
There you go.
Now Claire is applying what we learned. She's wiping my attack out of her way so that she can drive in with some of the strikes that we've been practicing with. And that's a really good way to think of a block. It's not so much just to stop an attack, but it's to get it out of the way so we can target where we need to hit to stop this encounter. Here's a short excerpt from a workshop we taught to a group of ladies who had never done that before.
Of equal strength, or even if he's at greater strength than me, it's going to be good for me to know how to use leverage. Again, I'm going to isolate.
All right, here we're moving to leverage to grapple someone down into a controlling situation.
Is I'm going to align everything in front of my power zone, which is the middle of my body. And I'm going to do that against a body part that I've taken away from the middle of his power zone. And I'm going to keep it right here the entire time and not give it back to him.
So those are the basics of how to control someone down with a grappling technique. I'm just talking about it from the perspective of one technique. This is called the number one arm control, Ikkyo, Ikajo, Ippondori. It's known as basic arm bar, where we're controlling the elbow, shoulder, and wrist. Potential home application. And here I'm showing that you can do the same thing if you happen to have a stick or your umbrella available. Claire now is going to show all the basic ways to take a person's center of gravity away from them so that we can apply one of these locking or grappling techniques more easily. The basics are to remove the head from being over the hips and the feet. And you do that by either twisting the torso, so you're going to twist the shoulders and head relative to the feet, or by drawing the head forward or back so that it's not over the hips and the feet. If you can do that, it makes it difficult for a person to remain strong, so you're more likely to be able to perform one of these grappling techniques. Now we're going to apply several of these center of gravity techniques in various situations. So we're twisting the head and shoulders here, using that to help us sneak in a leg sweep. And this is kind of our focus of our training here. We're trying to use a not hitting response. There we're using the elbows. And now we're adding some pain techniques. There are nerves throughout our body that can be triggered and cause a lot of discomfort. That will help us to bring someone down into a control situation much more easily. It takes a lot of training to be able to do this well, and that's why we do teach strikes, because they're easier to learn at first, they're easier to remember. Now here is a particular technique that's widely used by police forces, this wrist turn, along with the wrist lock and wrist twist that we just showed. That's kind of a triumvirate almost of police techniques. Sometimes I'll run across articles by people who are not policemen, and they'll claim that these particular techniques are not very effective. And that always strikes me as odd, because they're widely used by police forces around the world, because they're very useful. So as I say, they're very useful. You do have to know how to apply them properly, and you do have to know when you might need to add a strike to it to disrupt someone well enough that you can put that on. And here we're using the head to control someone down. When someone attacks us, we are not expecting it. They are. They planned ahead, and they're trying to get inside our minds, scare us, unbalance us. We're using the same strategy. Where the head goes, the body goes. We're doing it physically. We're literally taking control of their head so that we can control them down. Back to what I said earlier, we do teach strikes because it's a good starting point and it gives us a base of power. but I prefer to teach grappling techniques as well and really try to arm up my students with that, because I'd rather control something down in a way that minimizes harm to not just myself, but to the other person as well. Usually, when you get hit, you get mad, and especially someone who's attacking you. When you hit them, they start getting really ferocious and angry. Often they'll keep coming until you've battered them enough with hits that they're too damaged to respond. That's not my preferred approach. I'd rather just strike enough to disrupt them and then use a technique that's going to bring something to a safe place for everyone. Because even a person who's attacking us, they are still one of God's children. They still have value in His eyes. It would be really good if we can get them to a place where we can stop what's going on and prevent them from doing something that will harm us and also be bad for them.
One is that our rear end is back really well so that his center of gravity is pushed back while his head is pushed forward, so that's how he's off balance. The second thing is we want to be a little bit behind the elbow. If we're out here, then there's no lock. But if we're too far behind, then there's also no lock, really. We could turn it into an arm throw. But right behind the elbows where there's going to be...
I'm taking the time to show this because on all of these locks that we're showing and the leverage techniques, it's important to know what exactly we're trying to put pressure on. It's not just any old place on the arm. It's usually right at or just past the joint.
Yeah, that's good. Do one more.
Okay, yes. Now he's hitting, so you got to trap an arm. Good, buck up and get over. Yes, there you go, good. And out. Okay, here we're showing the ground, and we're not going to show all sorts of variety at this point. We're simply showing how to make power from the ground in leverage. So we're showing how to take the entire weight of the earth and instead of it being a disadvantage, use it to our advantage. We've levered something in between ourselves and our attacker, and we're pushing them off, not up, which would be very difficult, but to the side.
The worst place to be is in between my feet. But
this is the worst place you could be, with someone between your feet, but even from here, you can, instead of trying to push up on an attacker, slide your hip out sideways, make your leverage point, and then separate yourself to the side. Once you learn it, it's very easy and extremely hard to prevent you from doing it. And it's a real shame that a lot of ladies particularly don't know that technique, and they find themselves having been taken advantage of when there was a pretty simple technique they could use there. So we make sure we teach that in our workshops. That was generating power with strikes and leverage. Next time we'll show absorbing power so that taking a hit doesn't take us out of the fight. Hope you come back for that.
All right, wait. Are you ready, guys?
Yes.
Okay, go.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I think that's gonna be the take that we use.
That'll be the final one of those.
Sorry.
Oh.
You didn't put your hand up.
Sit down.